Hey everybody, it's Josh. We are all animals by nature. We are all drawn to narcissistic, ego-driven personalities. That's the easy road for us to take. Think about when you're a baby, screaming and crying. You don't care about other people's feelings. You don't care about anything except for getting that milk, somebody changing your diaper, getting mommy and daddy's warm, sweet hugs. But we have only sense of self. And most of us, we grow up and live our whole lives, that's all we know. We are the star of our own movie, and the universe revolves around us. I know we like to think that it's not that way, but maybe it's supposed to be that way. And I think that one reason that we have a higher consciousness and have evolved from other species of animals was so we could understand that there's more to life than self. There's more to consider. It's about connection with others, but connection through non-selfish means. I don't know how many of you have been in love, really had that true love to where you care about nothing else but your connection with that person. And really, when it all boils down to it, that is a selfish love too. We care about these people, and we tell ourselves we want what's best for them because we love them so much. But really, we just want them in our lives to make our lives more fulfilling. I think the first time I've always wanted to make other people happy, but that was also a selfish need because I needed my purpose in life. And we all do. We all absolutely need purpose. We need to find a balance. You have to excuse me again. I say it every time, but the pollen is bad out here. But we find the balance between this selfish mind, ego-driven mindset, and a loving spiritual connection with not only God, but everyone around us. So we see someone and we want them so badly to be happy that we don't care what it costs us. We don't care if it makes our lives harder to make them happier. When you get into that mindset, when you're giving charity anonymously, if you've got the money, or if you put in the time, you don't worry about even the joy that it brings to you. That is the highest level of being that we should all strive to. Now, there's a biblical scholar named Dennis Kinlaw, and he said the devil disguises himself under the ruse of personal autonomy. The shift in commitment is never from Christ to evil. It is always from Christ to self. Now think about that. those of you who have already found your faith and you've maybe even stumbled quite a bit, because everyone does. I'll try to get this glare out of here. I'm sorry about that. Everybody stumbles. We absolutely do. Because we are being drawn by forces of darkness that are in our actual nature to be on the level that God wants us to strive towards. We have to rise above that pool of ego, that pool of selfishness, that pool of narcissism. Because that's what you look at any animal and you can find human nature right in there. Because that's all we are when you boil it down and you strip away our consciousness, our higher consciousness. We are animals with animal instincts. And of course there is a selfish instinct in there because that puts us, or that is a part of surviving. Of course you're going to try to get the food that you need first because you are trying to stay alive, because you're out in the wild, you're an animal. You even see it, look at the birds that peacock. It's not just peacocks that do it, it's all kinds of birds. Those beautiful colors on those male birds, and just in trying to impress the ladies. I see people doing that all the time. You see how an animal reacts when they're backed into a corner, when they're scared, and they have no other options, and they think they're going to die, and all their mind is screaming, they're going to kill me. This person or whoever has backed them in the corner is going to kill me, because that is what nature does. We kill the other, whether they're a threat, whether they're food, whatever reason. They're moving in our territory. We don't want the other intruding on our space. And we all get that animal backed into a corner mentality. We really do. I know I know you can probably look at your life and see so many times when your ego has just made you irrational, or your inner demons, I should say. They usually manifest as your ego, which is why I say ego a lot, but really it's just inner demons. Inner demons might be all kinds of things, even above and beyond ego. They are temptation. They are the chemicals that run through our body and give us this false sense of bliss or fear. We have to find a way to rise above that. And that is why spiritual health, spiritual awakenings, and with spiritual awakenings, you are finding your connection to the other, the unknown, the unseen. Whatever forces are out there, we know they're out there. There's all kinds of unseen things that we know exist. We just can't bring ourselves to have scientists saying, oh, well, there's definitely a God, because we see proof of it everywhere. Well, they say there's definitely a thing called energy. They don't know exactly what it is, though, do they? They know how it acts, or they think they do. They know how it can never be created nor destroyed, only changed. Which, that's obviously not true either. in all cases. Or if it is, then we know that there is proof of God, because no being can create the mass and the energy for the entire universe, including our consciousness and all living things, out of nothing. There has to be a first mover somewhere. But getting to that self, or getting above the self, getting above the ego, it sounds so easy to say, okay, I just won't be selfish. I'll start thinking about others before me. But it is not easy at all. It's maybe the hardest thing there is to do. Because it is in our every single instinct inside of us, every single thought inside of us. We don't know any other perspective except for our own. And there is value to that. There is value to all your experiences, everything in your life, your independence, your freedom, what you witness, what you feel. There is value to all of that. But there is also a point in your life where you have to understand how to rise above that. And it's good to learn from an early age. Obviously, that's ideal. Having parents or some kind of mentor who can teach you, hey, you're just being selfish. You need to start thinking about others. Even if they don't teach you why you need to think about others, just to have it be ingrained in your thinking. Because I said we're all manipulated. We're all manipulated. Every single thing that we do in life is manipulated in some form. Some form of manipulation got us there. We don't just wake up and just do our own thing, make our own stuff and go our own way. No, there is all of mankind as our forefathers laying the groundwork for you to be able to walk from your door to your car, and your car to your drive to your job or wherever you're going to go, and the clothes on your back, and absolutely the technology that we have. It's all laid by someone else. We might have our own thoughts within artwork, within any type of artwork, music, movies, paintings, writing. It's still going to be inspired by someone else. Just heard a tree fall back behind me. That is all inspired by someone else. There is no self without society, without connection, without God. So it's interesting to think why we are so selfish. And I do think it is that animal instinct. We have a connection to, we try to seek a perfect mate, and maybe have children, or maybe, maybe not. But when we do this, we're doing this for our own self-interest. And there has to be at least some self-interest involved in that, or it's not going to work. If you have, you have a partner, either a friend or especially a lover, and there is no attraction in any physical, mental, spiritual attraction, any way at all. And there's no point in that. You're never going to be into that relationship the way you should be. It has to rise above that. You have to find what you... In a relationship, you always have to have those... Know your strengths and weaknesses. This is why I really believe before you can ever have a successful, long relationship, you have to know your strengths and your weaknesses. And you have to find someone... And I understand love is love. Is not gonna... It's not gonna matter sometimes. You just fall in love. But oftentimes, we mistake lust for love. You might be, oh, that's the best looking woman in the world I've ever seen, so she's perfect for me. She could be absolutely the opposite thing of perfect. Your partner's weaknesses and strengths have to align with yours. If they don't, there's going to be a problem. Because one of you is not going to be needed in that relationship if you have the same strengths and weaknesses. If you're someone who can't even get out of the house because you're so anxious and, introverted, and you find someone who's exactly the same, you're going to feed off of each other and just waste away together inside there. You find someone who is... Maybe you have a problem with addiction, and you also find someone who has a problem with addiction. Then that addiction is going to feed off each other. Because then, unless you separate while you're getting better, that addiction is going to be twice the size of the army you were fighting with just your addiction. But if you found someone who has the strengths different than you, has great willpower, just finds beauty and fun in life outside of learning to just depend on chemicals, then that is going to be someone who is most likely a perfect match for you. The opposite attracts thing. Now, our inner demons, as I said, they usually manifest as ego. And ego, and all the inner demons, they subvert our faith in God. They really do. There's a level of brainwashing that they do. The devil knows how to trick you. The devil knows your secrets. He knows your weaknesses. He knows your strengths. Because he knows his enemy. Because he's been doing this a lot longer than you have. And you're fighting in a battle that you don't even know you're fighting in. You're just opening yourself up. Easy money for him. Now, the devil does always like a challenge. But when we're young, it's often easiest for the devil to take over. Especially if we had either no guidance or the wrong kind of guidance from our parents on how to act as a human. Or maybe we just rebelled completely and just didn't listen to a damn thing they said. I know. There's been plenty of times when I didn't listen to the things I should have. But when we're young, we don't know ourselves at all. We're just really just infants out there, just exploring the world. And there has to be a period of time like that for most people. Because this is really self-discovery. Trial and error is how most people do self-discovery. You have to get to know yourself. You have to get to know all kinds of things. And that's another reason why the late middle ages are the unhappiest time in almost everyone's life. There's everything that we thought we knew, we don't know anymore. Then we're starting to realize God can actually guide us out of this. But many of us, it takes a long time because we don't believe that really, because we've never maybe seen real signs of it. I've mentioned before, I've felt the presence of God several times in my life, but I never felt a guidance from him. I never knew where to go. I just felt that love, and that love was enough for me for a while. And he knew that I needed to make my own mistakes. He knew that I needed to have these long years of suffering, because that was leading up to my purpose. My purpose being to help others in hell. And I needed that training. I needed my years of getting my degree in how to suffer and how to avoid suffering. But when we're taught structure from a young age, that can be one thing that is very, very helpful. Because structure and adaptability, I think, are two of the key things that most people just don't even really ever consider. I mean, obviously there's some structure to everything. But if your life is in chaos, you need to bring structure to it. And how do you bring structure to chaos? You need to be adaptable. You need to know yourself. Or you need to know what you're bringing structure to, which is yourself and your life. I've mentioned also in the videos how when you're fighting something like mental illness or addiction, you just have to know your enemy, and your biggest enemy is yourself. So how do you react? How will you react to all kinds of situations? And the more time you spend on this, the easier it'll be for you. You sit down, you think, what do I need to do? Where do I need to go? When something happens, I do this. If not this, then this. If something swerves this way, I go this way. You think 5-10 steps ahead all the time. And sometimes you're going to run out of options, because life is just going to run you off a cliff sometimes. But that's okay, because if you have that structure to climb back up to, out of that canyon that you just wrecked into, then you start over again. You may be limping, you may be beaten down, but you have that structure to say, okay, I've got this. It works in every single aspect of our lives. Take our financial lives. I have been a big fan of Dave Ramsey. He's a financial guru. And I unfortunately stopped following his steps when I went into my spiral of depression and just went broke after my disability and everything. But I still know his structure that he brings to finances. He says, make every dollar work for you. And you've got to know your enemy. So in the case of finances, your enemy is most likely yourself again. You're running up debt and you're charging up every credit card you can, maxing them out. And then you've got like 20 to 30% interest on credit cards. Good luck getting out of that. It's going to be a fight. And if you don't get some structure in your life and you don't bring some order into that chaos, it's just going to lead to disaster. In fact, that is the number one reason why couples split up. It really is the cause of so much stress in our lives. As the song says, it's the root of all evil today. But notice they're not giving any away, right? They're giving none away. So we bring order to our finances and we start doing what Dave Ramsey says and do those. He says you do baby steps. He has a whole system set up where you start out, you have a $1,000 emergency fund. It's only for emergencies. Then you start paying off your debts, smallest to largest. And sometimes he says, you can start paying off the highest interest first, but you pay off the smallest to largest first, even regardless of the interest, because it is psychological. Just like everything. Just like fighting addiction. Just like every single thing you do. It's psychological. You pay off that first credit card and you feel like, man, I can do this. I'm going to be a winner in this game. I've got this. You win that small battle, and it's the smallest one. You might have mounting debt, just obscene amounts of debt. I mean, sometimes it's too much, but oftentimes we think it's too much, but yet we can manage it. Because once you pay off that smallest one, then you start putting all that money into the next smallest one. And then you knock that out, and that's called the snowball effect, and you keep on paying more and more towards the one you're working on. So you've got 2 or 3 knocked out, 2 or 3 small ones. Then you're ready to start tackling the bigger ones. If you don't bring structure to the chaos, if you don't bring order to your life, it's going to be disaster. And for me, that was finding my spirituality, because in finding my spirituality, God granted me wisdom about myself. God granted me the peace and the calm to be able to tackle these problems and to be able to help others tackle their problems. And believe me, you're never going to be perfect. Don't even try to be. Don't be hard on yourself when you backslide or mess up. You're going to. It's just going to happen. I mean, if you thought you were perfect, if your standard is perfection, then you're going to be disappointed every single time. Because there is no perfect person except for Christ was the only perfect person that walked the earth. So don't set those high standards like that. I was talking to a man today I met. Let me try to figure out how to get this glare out of here. My goodness. God's shining his light down. I was talking to a man today about he had the exact same problem with his sciatic nerve and his back that I had in the very beginning before my first surgery. He hadn't had surgery yet. He was trying to do everything to avoid it. And that surgery, let's see if this works better. Now it's going to glare up there. I'm just going to spin around in circles, everybody. So I remembered when I was in that position, and every single person what they offered was, oh, go do yoga, go do the hot compress, go do a TENS machine. This works perfectly. Eat this, do that. Everybody has their little 2 cents to put in because everybody thinks that they know what you're going through. They know exactly what you're feeling. They're exactly in your, they are the ones. Ego. They're all that matter. Their situation was all that mattered. And if they could do something and it helped for them, then obviously it's going to help for you. And they're not trying to be mean. They're not. But I remember that was I used to get so annoyed by this. And I was like, come on now. Do I have to sit and listen to another person talking about, got the fly flying around now. I didn't want to sit and listen to the person talking about their experiences. Because I'd heard it all before. And really, there were a lot of things that could have been helpful in there, but I didn't want to hear anything. I was depressed. I wanted to feel sorry for myself. I just wanted to wallow in my suffering. That's all I wanted to do. So I'm striking up a long conversation with this guy at the store. And we talked for maybe an hour. It was funny, both of us were sitting there. You could tell we were both in pain, but we just wanted to keep talking because it was a great conversation. And I told him, I was like, you have to build up an arsenal. I was like, you can listen to what other people tell you. And yes, there are going to be good and bad suggestions in there. Some things work for you, some things don't. But when you're in that, you have to first just take note that it's going to be okay. You're going to make it through this because you aren't going to lay down and die. You're not going to surrender. You build that arsenal. You have, I told him the best things that worked for me were getting in that pool, because I can stretch in the pool, I can do exercise in the pool, and do all these things where it takes the pressure off of my back and takes, just makes me feel better. And I'm getting that exercise. You're getting those chemicals rushing through your blood, those endorphins and everything, and it is amazing. And the other thing that is best for me, I said, and he had good upper body strength too, is my walking stick. Now my walking stick I carry it almost anywhere I go. If I'm going into somewhere real quick, I won't carry it, or a grocery store, I'll just use a cart or something. But the walking stick for me, I tried a cane when I first had the back problems, and the cane was hunching over, and that was just making things worse sometimes. It helped somewhat. But the walking stick, I set it down, and every step I take is a stretch. I stretch out that back. And it's like going through traction. Traction's the thing where they kind of stretch you out. Looks like a torture chamber, but it feels amazing. And, he was saying he was doing some of the traction, and he'd go to the chiropractor and doing whatever he could. And I was like, that is great. I was like, do not get discouraged by the battles that you lose. You, just like in Dave Ramsey, you tackle the small problems first. And when you get victories in those small battles, then your hope starts to build. And you're like, I can actually do this. Wow. It's not all hopeless after all. And the hope will drive you. And that's in every situation. Hope is the greatest gift from God that we have. Hope is what drives us through things that we really have no business even going through. Because everybody's going to tell you the limits that you have. because that's the limits that they had. Look at the, what was it, the 4-minute mile? I was about to say the 6-minute mile. So the 4-minute mile. And that was supposedly the unbreakable, thing in sports that nobody would be able to do for the longest time. And finally, a man broke that 4 minutes. And what happened right after that? Runners started breaking that 4 minutes left and right. Boom, boom, boom. I mean, obviously these were Olympic class runners, but you know what I'm saying? They thought they couldn't do it before that. Then suddenly when they saw him do it, suddenly they can do it. So what was holding them back? Just people telling them it's impossible. That's it. It's not impossible. You can do almost anything. I mean, your mind is, your consciousness is unlimited. If you can tap into your spirituality and your sense of self and actually connect with God, it's like superpowers. I never thought I would be peaceful like this all the time. There's very few times when I'm stirred and there will be times when it happens. I get home and my back is just killing me so bad, and I've explained this before. It's like the white noise, and I'm like, oh man, I just gotta go. I just can't. I can't take it. And then kids are complaining. My wife's complaining at me, and I'm just like, no. And that's when I lose my peace. But that would have been a huge blow up fight most likely before. And now I'm like, I just got to decompress. And as soon as I decompress, just for a couple minutes, I will be good to, do whatever with the kids, talk to the wife, hang out with the wife, do whatever I need to do. You have to know these things. You have to know what's going to set you over the limit. And you won't ever know that unless you push yourself to those limits. So then you find, okay, well, I did this, and this, and that caused me to be like that today. And I'm going to avoid that from now on whenever I can. Sometimes things are unavoidable, but you have to get into that zone, and you have to know yourself, know your enemy. Your enemy is yourself. And get that best ally you can have, even fathom, is God and Christ. Or whatever religion that you want. But for me, it's always Christ. Because that love is just something else. Okay, everybody, I've gone on a little too long. I'm going to be taking my trip tomorrow. Probably do some videos from the road while I'm taking my walks, or the hotel room, or whatever. Maybe I'll make a little thing out of it. I'll bring you guys along for the trip and show you cool places, maybe if I find some. All right, God bless.